All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. So, in case you're wondering, the reason I'm wearing this sweatshirt is not this is a normal attire, but we talked about Enron in my seminar auditing class today. If you're not familiar with Enron, it's a fantastic and fascinating case. Obviously, a big tragedy what happened. It's 23 years old now, but you're probably familiar with it, heard of it. Obviously, they were a sleazy company, and I was part of the risk management department, according to this shirt. This was actually a gift from a former student, so I decided to wear it because we were talking about Enron today. Yeah, so today we're going to be doing, starting out with NetSuite, and we're going to wrap up with homework. So here's what I would like for you to do. I'd like you to go to your browser on your computer and type in netsuite.com. It will take you to this window right here. So netsuite.com. It'll just take you to this window right here. Once you've actually arrived at netsuite.com, and got to this window, you're going to click on this link that says login. Okay. So when you click on login, it's actually going to pop up in a different window, and you will actually see something like this. So we're going to be working through some basic setup information here. Before we get started, if you do not already have information set up, you may want to actually have some or have your Brightspace open, as I may be referring to some links in Brightspace. I would recommend that you actually, other than NetSuite, have your browser window open. You may want to do some searches for Google. And that sounds a little bit weird. I promise I'll explain why that's relevant here in just a second. But for the most part, this is going to be a pretty basic setup. We're going to be setting up the first part of our walkthrough to set up our NetSuite to run transactions. And so type in the email address you were assigned. Okay, that was what I was talking about before the class started. That you would need to actually have on your grade list on Brightspace, okay? So this is not your Truman State email address, just for clarification. That's the one that I assigned you, that's listed in Brightspace next to NetSuite login. And then the default password is also on Brightspace, as we talked about before. And this is, again, I know everybody, I've already referenced this many times in classes. For anybody who's going to be watching this video, just needs to know with the clarification, this is where you're going to find this information. Once you have that, then go ahead and click on login. And one of the very first things NetSuite's going to do is going to say, what is your role? All right. Now, the answer to this is going to be it's going to be very, very challenging for me to go into, and I'm going to talk about it a lot during the time we're in NetSuite. The simple answer is we're going to select the administrator role. So make sure when you're highlighting, you go to the role next to administrator. For mine, it's second down. I think it will probably be the same for everybody, but you want to select the administrator role. Please make sure you select it correct the first time. We can change it if when necessary, we need to go in. But in the past, I've had people select the wrong role, and it creates a lot of problems because I'm starting to work through and people get really confused, okay? So we'll check this here in just a second, but make sure it's highlighted administrator and should click role. Now, why are we selecting administrator as our role? Technically speaking, the administrator should not be able to do any transactions in NetSuite. This is somebody who's used for system oversight and has access to all areas of the system. If we were technically going to be doing this as a organization, we would have different people in different roles who had responsibilities for different areas of the platform. What I would like to do as part of this course is to give you access to a bunch of different areas, particularly within purchasing and the revenue process. The only way we can do that is to be administrator role. In a real world setting, you would not be getting this much exposure. You would not have access to everything that we're going to be doing. But for the purposes of this course, you will have access to all the areas of NetSuite. So you'll be able to work around and look at different areas. So let's go ahead and make sure you've chosen your administrator role. Once you've done that, it's going to ask you to change your password. So I want to make a quick note of this. Or actually, I guess it's going to ask you, I guess it will prompt change password in just a second. So it'll ask you some questions. It will also ask you a password at some point. I thought this was the password was before, but that was weird. Mine didn't come up. Regardless, you'll want to change your password. Please make sure that when you change your password that you write it down securely somewhere. It doesn't have to be on a piece of paper, but you have access to it, as well as the answers to these security questions. The reason I say this is that if you forget your password and then can't answer the security questions to get the password back, you are out of luck, okay? This is not something that I can go to Oracle and I can say, hey, can we get access back to it? Oracle is giving us subsidiary access, which basically means that if you get locked out, you are locked out completely, okay? There's not any recourse here. So please be very diligent about writing down your passwords and writing down your answers to security questions. I don't believe that the security questions are used for password recovery. I think these are actually multi-factor authentication questions. So you do need to make sure you remember everything that you put in here. So go ahead and if you pull up your password and change your password, change it. If not, we'll talk about how to change the password here in just a bit. And then do your some information here to remember for factor authentication. And I'm going to use the same ones that I always do, but I'm going to leave them blacked out so you can't actually know what my answers are. Second here, I want to check and make sure. Bothers me that we didn't ask you to change that password. Okay. No. Did anybody else not have change in password? Okay, that's weird. Well, we'll talk about that. I'm not exactly sure because usually it's a default they set up. We'll want to change the password to something else, and I'll look into how to do that. I've never actually done that before, so I'm not exactly sure where to go to, but I want to move forward so we get through everything. And then I'll send some instructions about how to send the password so you can do that outside of class, or we'll do it at the beginning of next class. Anyway, I apologize for that, but that's usually something that pops up very first thing and didn't pop up this time, so that's kind of weird. All right, so you should have your password and your answers to your questions default. So now we're at what we call the home screen on NetSuite. Now you can tell it's home screen because it's got the little house decorated. This will be our default location for all of our activities. If you get lost, just click on this little house and it will take you back to this screen. All right. Now, if you did everything correctly as far as your administration setup, it should say Catherine Glass, OA ERP Basics Administrator. We are going to change that. That is currently the identity that NetSuite has set up for you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and change some information from here. So let's go ahead and let's change this home screen information to start out. So what I'd like for you to do is highlight the home icon. And you'll notice that we've got dashboard and set preferences. I'd like you to go to set preferences. And we're just going to do a couple of decorative things. It's not necessary to make any changes here, but I do think it's kind of helpful. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to change time zone to Central Time since that's where we're in Central Time. So GMT 600 Central Time. It's going to be a little bit confusing because the company we're going to create is in San Francisco, so we should be technically Pacific Time, but we'll assume that we're separate from the company. We're doing the transactions here in Kirksville, but they're operating in San Francisco. Also, let's go to the appearance sub-tab up here. So under set preferences where it says appearance, there's a few things we could change here. I'd like to change this to the color theme. I like to change it to purple because we are a trim state after all. And again, there's a lot of other things we can do here. We're just going to do some small things here. Just most to expose you like what you can do with the preferences here. Go ahead and click on save. Now, this is one of the interesting things. You will notice that if you did change your color to something, like change mine to purple, it updates automatically. Some things will update automatically once you save them in NetSuite. Some things will not. Do not panic if your preferences do not update automatically. Usually it just means you have to log out and log back in. All right. But for the most part, we should be right here. We're going to go ahead. And again, if you didn't really do any changes in the preferences, those were just really basic changes. Those are not really, doesn't really matter. It is not important to the work that we're going to NetSuite that your background is purple. That should say preference, okay? It doesn't even matter if you set your time zone. What we're about to do moving forward, all of this is going to be very important. So this is the stuff you need to capture. If you fall behind, if you miss something, feel free to raise your hand, and I'm more than happy to reiterate what we just went through. So we're going to go ahead and personalize our home screen. And some of these we're not going to ever use, but some of the things we will use that will be very important, that will help us with moving forward and navigating through. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to click on the down arrow next to personalize, and it will come up with a window that says personalized dashboard. Now it's currently set at standard content, and this is content that we can add to our home screen if we would like to. Some of it is grayed out, and the reason that it's grayed out is if you go to currently used, it will show you currently what's on your home screen. And we can manipulate that and change that to whatever we wish. But here's what I'd like to do. We're going to put up some things, and again, not all of this is particularly important. It's just mostly for visualization purposes. The last two that I'm going to talk about will be very important. We will like to have those last two. So I want to make sure if you miss all of these, make sure you get at least the last two. So let's go ahead and go from standard content on the personalized dashboard. I'd like you to click on calendar. And this will add calendar, and you notice calendar popped up down here, okay? You can actually have multiple instances of calendar if you want, but that's added there. Let's also go over, we're going to scroll over to the right with that arrow. And we're going to select key performance indicators. And you'll notice key performance indicators popped up down here. Let's also scroll a little bit further to the right to where we see new release. And again, when I say scroll, it's not actually technically scrolling. You do have to click on the arrow to move over here. So click on new release. And then we're going to move back over to the left. Those are just kind of some examples of things that that we put up here. They're not particularly necessary. We're not going to use those, but these last two are very important. It's going to be very important to have these on the home screen because they will help with your navigation. The first one I'd like you to click on is the one that says recent records over here. Should be just close to the calendar over on the far left. Click on recent records, and you'll notice it popped up over here. And then I want you to move over to the right again, and like you'll click on shortcuts. And the shortcuts will pop up over here. These add items to the home screen, add sections to the home screen. So whenever we actually navigate out of whatever we're working on, we can look back and see what we were recently working on, looking at recent records. Or if there are areas that we frequently use, we can go to shortcuts, which is why we want to add those to the home screen. All right, once you've done that, go ahead and click on the X under personalized dashboard. We are done with the personalization for right now. All right, let's go ahead and change our identity now, because none of us in this room, I don't think we've got anybody in this room named Catherine Glass. I wait for the day I have an AI student named Catherine Glass, and that student will not have to change anything. Will not have to change any identity, but we're not there yet. I'm not Catherine Glass. I don't think anybody else in this room is. So we're going to go to lists. And when you're highlighting the items of the tab, basically all you have to do is put your mouse over them. It'll do a drop-down list. You don't have to click anything. We're going to roll our mouse down to employees. And then we're going to move over to the right, and we're going to click on employees. And you can just click on employees. You don't have to click on new or search. You can just click on the employees. So list, employees, employees. Right here. And you should have this window come up that lists out all employees. So we can search for this, but the truth is we don't have enough employees that it's really worthwhile to search. We're just going to find Catherine Glass, which is in alphabetical order according to first name. So you find Catherine Glass right here, which has an internal ID of -5, which I'm not sure how that works, how you get an ID of -5, but that's cool, I guess. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to go ahead and click on edit. Take a second. I noticed my computer moves a little bit slow. Hopefully yours is moving a little bit faster than mine. All right. So here's where we're going to change the information. Now, it's really important that you follow this step because my identification of your Oracle base will be based on your identity. If you submit something that says Catherine Glass, I'm going to assume that you did it, but I'll say, yeah, you're not Catherine Glass. You need to actually put your own identity in here. So this is where you're going to put your name. All right. So under name, put your first name. Then under last name, put your last name. And once you do that, you will notice that it actually changes the employee ID to whatever your name is. That's an autofill for that, which is nice. It also gives you the initials. If you want to be snarky, and I love being snarky, you don't have to be a controller. You can change your name to something else, okay? So I like to change my, sorry, not your name, my job title. You can change, I like to change my job title to accounting hero. Also, we're not going to do it right now, but you will notice there's actually an image associated with Catherine Glass here, okay? Now, if you're curious about what that image is, so just have it down here. So this is Catherine Glass's image right there, all right? And if you want to leave that image in, it's fine. We're not going to be dealing too much with the images, at least not this particular image, but you can record your own image. So I went ahead and created my own image. What do you think? So if I wanted to replace that image, I could. I'm not going to. I want to make sure we have plenty of time for everything. But yeah, did my best Catherine Glass impression. So let's go ahead and click save. By the way, please do not, under any circumstances, change your email address down here. If you change your email address, it will change the login. It means you won't be able to log in. So please do not change that or any information we're going to leave. All we're going to change, we're going to change name. And if you want to change job title, it's fine. It should update everything else automatically. You are welcome to upload a new image. We'll talk about how here in just a second, but that's not a requirement of this particular section. So click on save. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to make one small cosmetic adjustment, okay? So I want you to go to Documents, highlight over Documents. We're going to go to Files, File Cabinet, and we're going to click on File Cabinet. And over here, you notice that they've got images here. So click on Images. Now we've got some items here. Now, in past versions of NetSuite, they actually had company logos that we can add. To my knowledge, the company logo does not appear on any of the forms anymore. I'm not sure what the change is, which is a shame because I really enjoyed adding my company logo because it was a picture of a small crab, and so it just appealed to me. But we can add the file here. You can actually see add file. This is actually how we go through and add through file through Catherine Glass. The actual Catherine Glass image is under demo files. So you can see this is where I got that picture from. If you wanted to add your own image here, this is where you'd add it. But under images, I do want to make one small change, okay? And the reason why is if you click on US flag, okay, go ahead and click on US flag. This is the document that goes in every single file that you will submit. This is the background for every single file that you will submit. Now, I'm proud to be an American, but let's be honest, this is really gaudy to go on the back of an invoice or a purchase order, a sales order, and it makes it really hard to read, okay? Now, if you want to leave it like that, if you really want to support that's cool, okay? It's just really, really hard to read because the name goes in the background of the US flag and then you're trying to hear text. Kind of what I prefer you to do, and again, this is not a requirement, but I would recommend that you do it just for sanity's sake. We're going to click on Edit US Flag. And I believe that on Brightspace, I actually have a file in the NetSuite files called blank. Okay. And that's just a blank image that you can download and you can replace the picture of the US flag with it. Now, again, this is not a requirement. If you want to submit your invoices with the American flag, that's fine. But this is basically what the background of all your documents you currently submit will look like. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, where it says select file, right above the American flag, I'm going to choose my file. And I'm going to upload that blank image file that I have from Brightspace, just called blank.jpg. Once you've got that file uploaded, you can click on save. And it will say it's overwrite the existing cabinet file. It's like okay to continue. That's okay, because basically we would like to have a blank background in all of our documents. Makes it much easier to read. When you do that, you will notice that now we have just a blank window right here. Yes.
How do you get the blank photo again?
So it's on Brightspace under the NetSuite files on Brightspace. It shouldn't have closed down Brightspace.
It's in week 3.
Week 3? Okay. My apologies. Week 3. There you go. I forgot that there's no actual NetSuite folder in there. So yeah. Oh, I've already got the NetSuite default password here. How about that? Okay. Yeah. So it's this blank file. You can just download this image file and replace that. All right. So that's kind of just a housekeeping thing, and a housekeeping I would like to do. That one's not particularly important if you don't get it taken care of. Again, it will just make your background documents look a little bit harder to read. That's why I make the change. The next step is really important to do. So we are going to change our company. We're going to change our company. So let's go ahead and go to Setup, Company, and Company Information. And you'll notice this is where it says OERP Basics and its legal name is ERP Fundamentals. We are going to change it. Now, the good news is our company logo on our forms got the US flag. Now it will be blank now, so we don't have to worry about that interfering with everything else. So here's what I'd like for you to do. I would like for you to pick a company name of your choice. I'm going to type a company name up here, one that I always use. Do not use my company name, okay? It's mine, okay? You get to select your own company name. If you want to use your last name and just say Smith Corporation, that is fine. No judgment, whatever you want to do. This is a point for you to actually use creativity, which often doesn't get to be used in AIS. This is one of those rare moments that we get to actually use a creative name. But I would like for you to have some sort of unique name in there that identifies it. You're going to type that both in company name and legal name. All right, so company name and legal name should be something of your choice. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's not mine. You choose my name, it's an automatic 0. Just kidding. That actually has happened. Doesn't matter how many times I protest it. Don't use my company name as mine. I always get a student who always says, I got to do exactly what Dr. Barnes does. Yes. Use your own company name. All right. Scrolling down, you will notice we have a subtab for addresses. Okay. Like I said, we're going to be in San Francisco, so we're just going to set up some fictitious addresses here. Here's what I'd recommend. For headquarters, I want you to go ahead and click on Edit, this Edit button down here. And we're going to change the addressee, whatever your company name is. For the phone number, you can leave that the same if you want to. I'm just going to change it to area code 415 because that's the area code for San Francisco. I'm going to change the address. 101 Deer Street. Then we'll do the city of San Francisco, obviously in California. And the area code is 94105. The headquarters, your addressee is your company name. You can change the phone number if you like, it's not necessary. But 415 is the San Francisco area code. Change the address to something fictitious. City is San Francisco, state is California, zip code 94105. Once you've done that, you go and click OK. We got a few more address edits to make. Let's go ahead and change the shipping address. And you can leave that as warehouse manager. We're going to change the addressee again to your company name. I'm gonna change the address. I'm gonna use a different address because I don't send stuff that goes to headquarters to the warehouse and vice versa. I'm gonna do 202 Ison Avenue. Also in San Francisco. 94105. Once you've done that, you can go and click on OK. Let's go ahead and make changes to the return address, and we're just going to send all returns to our warehouse to make things easy. So return address, I want you to say warehouse manager. Address C is going to be your company name again. And the good news is, start typing things in, it will actually default to things that you've entered before. I'm going to make up a phone number here, 415-252-6314. Let's send it still back to 202 Ison Avenue. So that's a warehouse address for me. In San Francisco, California, 94105. So just as a note, I'm making my shipping address and my returns address the same, which makes sense because I'm going to say they're going to ship or return items. I'm going to ship from the same place that I returned my items to, the same warehouse. All right. Once you've made all the changes, the headquarters address and the two warehouse addresses, go ahead and click save. All right. We have one more thing we need to do before we finally check and make sure everything's okay. So let's go ahead and go to setup, go to company, and then you're going to have to highlight over here and scroll down to get to warehouses. Oops, a little bit too far. There we go, warehouses. Setup company warehouses. Go ahead and click on warehouses once you get there. So if our transactions, we're going to set up one of our warehouses for the bulk of our work to come from. It's going to be US 1. So next to US 1, go ahead and click on edit. And you'll notice we don't have any addresses yet. But the good news is we already know where the warehouse is because we've just put the warehouse addresses in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on edit next to address. I'm going to go ahead and make my attention to warehouse manager again. The addressee, company name. Making up a phone number. I don't even know if that's the same phone number I typed in, but whatever. 202 Ison Avenue, San Francisco, California, 94105. And you're going to put both those addresses in. You're going to put that in for the address and then the return address. The whatever the other address is. I don't know if it's, I think it's a return address. Yes. So if you filled all that out, you can go ahead and click OK and then click Save. If you're still filling it out, I'm going to leave this open just to make sure everybody gets caught up. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. Is everybody got to the point now where they feel they've got everything that I just said to done? I'd like you to highlight over here. You will notice that Catherine Glass is still listed and our old company is still listed. We do need to reset that. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to log out. And then go to log in and log back in. Presumably, if everything went well, now it says your name up here, your company name, and your administrator. If you got that, you're in great shape. So your final step is a screen capture of this particular document. So let me tell you what you need to do. I have very specific requests for when we do these items, so make sure we follow these instructions. So first of all, you can do a screen capture a few different ways. You can actually just capture the entire screen, or you can use snipping tool, which is usually what I default to. I click down here and I just type in snipping tool. I think there's also a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut that one of my students told me about last semester, and I immediately forgot because I've slept since then. So snipping tool will be fine though. We're just going to use that. We're just going to capture our screen. Make sure you capture your name and your company name in the screen capture, as well as the at least part of the home screen from NetSuite. Put it immediately in the snipping tool. Then what I'd like for you to do, just for preview purposes, the Brightspace is a little bit finicky about what will allow to preview. Open a Word document. Paste that file in a Word document. So you should have a Microsoft Word document with this screen capture that you just did. Good news is once you put it in snipping tool, you can immediately paste it into a document. Save this file, not your picture, not your image file, but this file right here, this document file, and upload that for your assignment for NetSuite for today. Yes.
Somehow I got my name, but not my company name. Do you still want me to submit that?
So you may need to go back and check and make sure that your company information is updated. So run through the procedures again through like setup, company information, check and make sure that it actually saved all that. Then if that's correct, try logging out, logging back in again, and seeing if it updates the name. If it's not, then you can just update that from there. By the way, I think I mentioned this in the email I sent on Monday. This submission is not technically due till Friday before class. So if you missed something and needed to correct something, you do have plenty of time to make that adjustments. If you're missing anything or fell behind, then you can actually watch the video and catch back up on whatever you missed. So I do allow you a little bit of additional time. For the most part, you should be able to complete this during the class period that we walk through these assignments. All right, once you submit that document.
You guys to change the orientation of the image so you can see it.
No, so yeah, you can just leave the orientation just however it defaults in Word. Mostly just going to be checking to see that your name and your company name, and we can read that sideways if necessary. All right, so that does it for NetSuite for this week. Again, most of our NetSuite assignments will not take the entire class period, which is why we're doing homework. I have a little bit less time for today's homework than I'd like, so I'm going to burn through this pretty quickly just to make sure we get through this. But I do want to talk about a few things. So let's go ahead and let's do our best to get through this. And if necessary, I can defer our next discussion on homework until we get to chapter 4. I may wait on talking about one of the complex things we're going to have to deal with. So first multiple choice question, which of the following statements concerning this class diagram with multiplicities is not true? So the way you should approach questions with multiplicities, and there are going to be several of these on the exam, is make sure you can interpret the multiplicities before you ever look at the answers. So this is a pretty easy one, all right? We say an order involves one customer and only one customer. That's basically how we read this one. And a customer can have 0 orders or many orders. So once you've determined and interpreted the multiplicities, then you just actually go through the answers and determine which one does not fit. Order can involve one customer. That is a correct statement. A customer can place only one order. That is not a correct statement. They can place 0 orders or many orders. So B is our answer. Well, let's go through the rest. Customer can place many orders. That's true. Customer may not have ordered yet. That's true too. That's what the 0 is listed as multiplicity here. So B is our answer. Let's do it once more. Which of the following statements is true about this class diagram? Okay, so inventory can be involved in 0 sales or many sales. A sale has to involve at least one inventory item. There's no sale otherwise. but it can involve many inventory items, okay? So sale can involve 0 inventory items. No, that's not correct. Sale can involve 1 inventory item. That's true. Can involve many inventory items. That's also true. That means that we've got both B and C are true, which E is our answer. All right, question number 5. Which of the following is an example of an obligatory business rule? What is the word that's used in obligatory business rules, by the way? Did anybody capture that on Monday? Should, yeah. So we're looking at something that says should, okay? So if that's the case, we have customers must provide a valid credit card number. Must is just a stronger form of should, so I think we can accept that. Customers must enter a shipping address. That's probably a good one. Customers may not enter a post office box as a shipping address. That's not that's a prohibited business rule. And then customers may use visit or business card. That's an allowed business rule. So our obligatory would be both A and B because they represent should or must, which is a little bit stronger, of course. All right, moving on to question number 10. Which of the following best describes the meaning of this UML class diagram? Again, starting out here, UML class diagram. New car inventory. New cars can be involved in 0 sales or as many as 1 sale. You can't sell a car more than once. A sale has to involve 1 car and only 1 car. All right. So which one is representative? Well, each new car can be sold only once. We got the right answer right off the bat. A is correct. All right. So I'm going to do a few of these questions here. This is basically a long interpretation of UML diagram with a lot of these. I'm going to do a few of these now. I'm going to wait till the end. If I have time, I will do an interpretation of 1 or 2 of these questions. The 2 of these questions are really easier to answer once we've done relational databases, which we've not done yet. So I may wait until we talk about chapter 4 to come back to these questions, okay? But let's go ahead and go through 11. So which of the following describes multiplicities next to number 1 in the preceding diagram? So this is the multiplicity here. So remember, when we interpret a multiplicity, we start with the far class, move to that multiplicity, and then go to the near class. So stocks can be on 0 stock exchanges or many stock exchanges. So anywhere from 0 to many. That's what we're actually representing. So which of these can actually be represented that? Stocks are traded only 1 exchange. No, that's not a correct statement. Stocks are traded in at least 1 exchange. They could be on 0 exchanges, so it can't be B. Stocks are traded a minimum of 0 exchanges. That is a correct statement. Stocks are traded in a maximum of many exchanges. That is correct. So both C and D are correct. All right. Question number 12 says, let's look at number 2. So stock exchanges have to have at least 1 exchange, or 1 stock, I mean. They're kind of silly to say that you have an exchange with 0 stocks. They probably don't have an exchange in that situation. But a stock exchange can have many stocks. So which one of these are interpretation? Stock exchange trade at least 1 stock. Yes, that's a correct statement. Only 1 stock. That is not a correct statement. That would be kind of silly. That would be a weird stock exchange. It'd be a weird stock exchange. A minimum of 0 stocks. Nope, that's not a correct statement. Maximum of many stocks. That is correct. So A and D are correct, which is E. Which I don't really like it because there's such a weird differentiation on E's. Like it's got to be E. They wouldn't select those 2 arbitrarily. So anyway, moving on to question number 14. Which of the following best describes the multiplicity number 3? Kind of see a trend here. All right. So buy-sell transactions. So a transaction has to have 1 stock and only 1 stock. This is an important distinction, by the way. We'll make a note of this. Okay. The 1 and only 1 actually has a very important representation with respect to a future question. But basically speaking, when we talk about 1 and only 1, what are we talking about in number 14? Each transaction involves only 1 stock, but each transaction involves at least 1 stock, but each transaction involves only 1 stock. So A and B are both correct, which means E is correct. All right. Number 15. 15 actually interprets number 4. Okay. So stocks can be involved in 0 buy-sell transactions. Could have no exchanges for a stock. Or you could have many buy-sell transactions, many transactions. So stock can be traded on many different occasions. So how do we actually interpret that? So number 15, each stock is bought and sold at least once. That's not true. Each stock is bought and sold at least once, but each stock is bought and sold only once. That's not true. It can be bought and sold a maximum many times. Okay, a minimum many times. That's not correct. So it can't be A or C. So if you just arbitrarily said E was going to always be the correct answer, E is not the correct answer here. They fooled you. Okay, they fooled you. You got to keep your head on a swivel. So C is the correct answer here. All right, question number 16. I'm not going to explain it right now. I don't think I'm going to have time to explain it today, given our short time. I will talk about this more on Monday, but I would like you to make a note of question number 16, and it will make a lot more sense when we talk about relational databases on Monday. The answer to number 16 is going to be A. All right. And a lot of you probably said that both A and B are true, and I'm going to talk about why both A and B cannot be true when we get to Wednesday. It's easy to think that if it's a primary key in one table, it can be a set foreign key in another table. There are specific criteria for primary keys that we need to keep in mind. But we'll look at some of those criteria on Wednesday. But please make a note of that. It's A. You're probably asking why. I have an explanation, I promise, okay? I just don't have time to go into that detailed explanation today. All right, question number 17, looking at 5, okay? So 5 says, brokers are involved in 0 buy-sell transactions. You have a broker that has no transactions, or many buy-sell transactions, okay? So question number 16 or 17, all right? Each broker is involved in 1 buy-sell transaction. No. Question or B, in many buy-sell transactions. That is that is not necessarily true. Okay, you have brokers. Each broker could be involved in 0 or 1 because that's the range that we talked about. Each broker involved in a minimum of 1 buy-sell transaction. That's not true. We had 0 as our minimum. Minimum of 0. That is a true statement. E, both B and D are correct. Well, B was not correct, so D is our answer. All right, and as you predicted, number 6 is the last one. So we kind of wrap this up. Okay, so 6 buy-sell transactions involve 1 broker and only 1 broker. Well, that's pretty easy. Okay. So if we go to number 18, it says each buy-sell transaction involves 1 broker. A is the answer, and A is the only answer that we have correct there. Okay. By the way, 19 actually pairs with 16 in their explanation. The answer to 19 is also A. I know that you're thinking, why is it not D, Dr. Barnes? And again, I have my explanation. Part of that has to do with the fact, remember I talked about these one-to-one relationships right here, and I said note these. Please make a note of these for Monday during our discussion. Having a multiplicity of 1-to-1 is a critical characteristic for primary keys. In order for a primary key to work, it has to have a 1-to-1 representation. Now, I will explain that in a little bit of a visual diagram when we get to it, but we got 4 minutes left and we still have to talk about UML diagrams. All right. So moving on to problems 1 and 2. So identify the class association in this narrative. So Dr. Franklin runs a small medical clinic specializing in family practice. She has many patients. The patients visit the clinic. She performs several tests to diagnose their conditions. She bills the patient 1 amount for the visit plus the additional amounts for each visit. Okay, so what are the things that we need to know in order to create a UML diagram? We have to know what the classes are. And the classes are depicted primarily by our 3 entities. What are our 3 entities again? What do we talk about? That was a critical part in order to know UML diagrams. Resources, events, and agents. Good. Okay, so resources, events, and agents, we have to define. All right, let's start with our event because the event drives everything else. Okay, so event is going to be a visit to the doctor's office. Okay, whatever that visit is. All right, now let's actually define what are the resources that are going to be provided. When you visit the doctor's office, you're not just doing that to pick up a magazine and just bide your time there. I know that's something you have to do. But what are you at the doctor's office for? You get tested to provide some sort of service by the doctor to actually perform some sort of medical procedure. All right. Now, who are the agents in this particular diagram? There's 2 series of agents. Okay. One is going to be obvious. It's going to be the doctor. Okay. You have to have a doctor in order to have a medical visit. But what else do you have to have? The patients. Okay. It's really weird if the doctor is just kind of hanging out performing medical procedures in thin air. Okay. It doesn't work out. So you're going to have a diagram that's going to look something like this. Okay. Something like this. Now, we won't go into the multiplicities, but they're fairly self-explanatory. Suffice to say that if Dr. Franklin has no supporting staff, that she's the only agent that's listed, and then her patients are kind of given as another set of agents altogether. By the way, does everybody remember this diagram? I said that this form was going to be something that we'd be using very frequently. 1, 1, and 2 form for the resource events and agents. Yeah, we will see this a lot, at least in these early stages. All right, moving on to our final question. We got another narrative. Paige runs a small frozen yogurt shop. She buys several flavors of frozen yogurt mix from her yogurt supplier. She buys plastic cups in several sizes from another supplier. Okay. She buys cones from a 3rd supplier. She's got a lot of suppliers. She counts yogurt and cones as inventory, but treats the cups as an operating expense and doesn't track any cup inventory. Now, that's kind of needlessly complex, but it's still pretty straightforward if we think about it. So let's go ahead, identify our classes again, resources, events, and agents. All right. What is going to be an agent? So what's going to be our event? Our event is going to be purchase of inventory because we know that she has to have purchase of inventory for these transactions. All right. What is going to be our resource? I just named it. It's going to be our inventory. Okay. And who are our agents in this transaction? Well, there's Paige, because she runs the yogurt shop, but Paige also has to purchase from suppliers. Yeah, the suppliers. Good. All right. So we're gonna have a UML diagram that looks something like this. Okay. Now, there are some different interpretations to this particular diagram. Again, we could actually include another resource and we could say something other than inventory, because we do know that cups are not treated as inventory, but as operating expense. So it's a little bit difficult to treat them as inventory in this diagram. Keeping it as simple as possible, though, this would be an acceptable answer if I asked a question like this on the exam. Okay. We note that the resources of the important resource of the inventory that are events or purchases, and we have our pairs of agents. Okay. If you got somewhat close to this on your homework, you should feel pretty good about where you stand with the UML diagrams. If you didn't, take a note of this, try to figure out where you went wrong, and keep that in mind moving forward. All right, we're at 12:20, so I won't keep any longer. Have a great day. I'll see you for Excel on Friday.
Can you go back to question one?
Sure.